All of the other buildings was Eastern State Hospital, which continued to operate while we were under construction and well into our first and second semesters in this building. So a couple of the more interesting finds that the construction team, they did find some unknown tunnels. We knew there were several tunnels on campus, but surprise, there were also some we didn't know about, as well as we did discover remains. And again, as we said, we very respectfully treated and reinterred those remains back in the back corner of our property in a cemetery. So at the end of that construction phase, you will see our building, this classroom building that we are in, and this is what the property looked like after the demolition was completed. So an additional part of our past here at the Newtown campus is the Build Smart initiative. We were fortunate enough to get our second building, which was the Science Education Center building. You'll see it just to the back that you've already toured. Some of you have. $24 million property construction budget, as well as, of course, our $6 million match that we put in. So that opened in 2018. And our most recent renovation and addition is the Den, where we had lunch. It opened in the fall of 2021, and so we took the historic 1906 building, coupled it up with a new addition, and that is our intake services. Really, the concept is enter in the front door, do everything you need to do, apply for admissions, find out information, apply for financial aid, meet with an advisor, pay your bill, placement test, buy your books, and walk out the back door ready for your first day of class. So we are very proud and happy to have that historic laundry building turned into the Den, because that's really what it was. It was a laundry facility. Our next most recent project that we're working on is the renovation of the administration building. This building was built in 1894. We did do some minor cosmetic updates to it back in the beginning of the campus development, but we are looking to put an addition onto this facility that will accommodate 300. Right now, we do not have a space. You are in our gathering space. So as a college, this is just not large enough to accommodate us, and so we are hoping to have that addition put on to the building, as well as make the building ADA compliant. So the next then part of the phase construction, the 4-phase construction. So phase 2B, we like to call it. One half of that 2B construction is already funded. We did have agency bonding of $58 million, and then we will be contributing 5.8 of this project as local match. You can see the blue shaded box. That really represents phase 2, the yellow phase 4, and the red phase 3. So we will be moving forward with that authorization July 1st of this year, and are very, very excited to get that underway. And in the meantime, when we first came onto this project, we did not have Newtown North. At some point, we were offered the opportunity to take over the former juvenile justice property that's just across Loudon, up here to my left. And there are 12 acres, so we went ahead and renovated and put an addition on to the current classroom building that was there. We put in $2.4 million of our fund balance. We were able to create that as an adult education campus for Fayette County. And then we also did some demolition, and this is the property that Dr. Acapo has already talked about. We are putting our new services building. So our community services program, this is getting ready to go to bid soon, maybe in the next week, where our dental hygiene program, our cosmetology, our testing services, those services that serve our community, they will be located at this Newtown North project. So $16 million budget authorization. LFUCG did contribute $2 million from their ARPA funding. And then, of course, we will be putting in the additional money from our fund balance. So that is scheduled to open and have our first classes in the fall of 2024. And so then the completed master plan. So what does the future hold for us other than those projects? Well, lots more exciting information. You can see this full phase build out is exciting, and we are only in one half of phase 2B, so we will be seeking to continue this full build out. And it's truly been transformational. From 2008, when we started this project, it has not only transformed us as a college, it has transformed the community. The new construction you see just on 4th Street, the Newtown Pike corridor, that was a completely different vision as you came into the city in 2008 when I first moved here. So it truly is transformational for the community. And this is our why. I said we transform lives. We do transform lives. And these are just a few of the students that we represent. And, you know, I've only talked about the last 15 years of the transformations that we've been a small part of, but really the history of BCTC dates back 84 years to LTI, Lexington Technical Institute, which was established in 1939, and we have continued that transformation all the way 84 years later, impacting lives, one student, one employer, one community, and one campus at a time. So, thank you.
Well, with that said, any question for Ms. Bell or I? Okay, Mr. Chair, there's no question for me, so I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. You have been, board members, you've been distributed the minutes of the December 1st and 2nd regular meeting. If there's any, is there any corrections? Hearing none, we'll make those as stand approved. Changes to the agenda. If you're looking on board, we have changed the agenda that from day 1 to day 2, we flipped those. And this gives a conversation opportunity to have it later with Dr. Ferguson's President's report and trying to group items that are closely connected together. I would like to ask the board to approve the changes in the agenda, flipping day 1 and day 2. Without objection, so moved. Roll call vote.
Chair Stevens.
Aye.
Vice Chair Martin. Secretary Fletcher.
Aye.
Regent Bogart.
Aye.
Regent Finan.
Aye.
Regent Girdler.
Aye.
Regent Green.
Aye.
Regent Hamilton.
Aye.
Regent Herdink.
Aye.
Regent Jackson.
Aye.
Regent Rabinowitz.
Aye.
Regent Smith.
Aye.
Regent Witten.
Aye.
Of the members present, the vote is unanimous. The motion carries.
Thank you. I'd like to, we had a busy December meeting, and since then we've had a busier January, February, a lot of special call meetings, and I would like to thank the board for their patience in working through these difficult decisions. We also have an audit committee report today to present to you, and Buddy will do that at later in the meeting. We also have Pam with a Huron report, and she will be giving that later. I'd like to thank the board members for their dedication and hard work and patience, in especially the last 3 months of engaging and working with the systems office and the chairman and the executive committee And I feel very comfortable today and tomorrow will be productive days for this board. The next item on the agenda is Dr. Ferguson, and he has some remarks, and I'd like to say thank you, Dr. Ferguson, for stepping in. I think you've proven the great leadership, and you've done an outstanding job. Thank you.
Everybody hear me? You'd think after all the years of doing this, I would have turned the microphone. I don't see a button. How's that?
Joe, you.
Reason Hurdick, you may have to go up there and help him.
I'm sure at this point you're rethinking your decision to ask me to be the acting president. But I am not the acting president of Technology Solutions. We have a fine vice president who does that, so there won't be a problem. Before we get started, if you don't care, I would like to introduce, because they're with us today, we have several of our college presidents. And if you can, when I call your name, please stand up. We have Dr. Carrie Castle, who is from Somerset. Dr. Todd Handy, who is from Jefferson. Dr. Fernando Figueroa from Gateway. And Kofi, who's checking his 10,000 messages. He's a choose lesson. There's Kofi. Dr. Pate, could you please, Elizabethtown. Dr. Neal from South Central. And, of course, Dr. Linden from Hazard. And we're grateful that you're here today with us. Our other presidents, I'm sure, are watching this. It was interesting. I was talking to Regent Martin just a moment ago before I got started, and people keep asking me, well, how's it going as the acting president? And I thought, it is only appropriate that I'm at a former mental hospital today to provide these comments to you. So it really makes a lot of sense to me that is where I am today. There are some important things, though, I do need to share with you. The first thing I will say, I hope you all have appreciated, and it's not too much communication. We always struggle with that, providing you weekly updates of what's been happening. Our legislative cycle has been one of the most trying ones I've ever been a part of, and I've been pretty involved in that process for well over a decade. And even our counterparts and some of our connections and relationships have said the same thing. I lost count. At one point, there were like 860 bills, correct, Hannah? Something like that. A lot of different, I'll say this, and I know this is being broadcast, a lot of games being played with shell bills and things popping up. In the end, I know I provided ongoing updates to you, so I won't rehash all of the bills that didn't make it, but there were two that really stood out, and one that stood out was the Senate Joint Resolution 98, and of course, I'm sure that the Regents have had conversations about that. We've talked about that. At this point, we're just trying to be receptive and open because we don't know exactly what that's going to mean until CP provides their report, which they're supposed to do in December. And luckily for us, I give a lot of credit to our regents and our ROC committee and to Regent Fletcher, who chaired that. We were ahead of the game in looking at ourselves, doing analysis on effectiveness and efficiency, and in hiring Huron. And I know Pam will provide an update of where they are later, but we're a little ahead of the game in taking a great look at ourselves and focusing on continuous improvement. I'm sure that report will play into whatever the Council for Post-Secondary Education provides later. The other bill that, I know that Dr. Figueroa, we were having daily conversations about, many of us was the gun bill, and I will just leave it there. That gun bill did not pass at this time. We do anticipate, for those of you that are concerned about that bill and what the implications might be, it will be back. It'll be back in January or February. We're going to see that again. And most of the universities, of course, and the regionals stand with us, and we were really concerned about basically just opening the gates. I would never want to be against the Second Amendment, trust me, but those were some concerns for us for our safety of our students. I know later the Regents will be examining, and most of you, of course, participate in the meeting as far as the interim search, so I won't provide any comments there, but I will say that we have actively, since I arrived, February 3rd, I was asked to do this. We're working on a very comprehensive transition plan, so ultimately when an interim is selected, or ultimately if a president is hired, we're going to have a comprehensive plan to help them through the transition. As you can imagine, with the thousands of employees that we have, the size of budget, and the things that we do, that's very complex. And I wish there had been one laying on the desk there when I got there, but there wasn't one. So in any event, we are working on that, and I wanted the Regents to know that. So Chair Stevens asked me, as acting, you are in a unique role of sorts because you're coming in and looking at something from a different lens. I had worked at the system office for several years at different times, a couple of different stints there, so I knew what the system was like then, did not exactly know what it was like now. And so as I can't help it myself, I tell people I'm a recovering consultant. That was the first part of my career. So I haven't done that in years, but in any event, I am a recovering consultant. So in looking at that, there are some things that really stood out, things that some of the regents have mentioned to me, things that the cabinet at the system office have mentioned to me that we're concerned about. And I wanted you to know, even though we're in this transitional time and we will have an interim or a permanent president, we're already working on some of these things. And I think it was important for the board and for all of our college faculty and staff to know that. Most of it's focused around the system office. The first thing I would talk about is this phrase. I don't know if we coined it, but we should have, and we charge people to say it, but it is called initiative overload. We have a lot of initiatives, several of them. And so I will applaud Dr. Williams. She's already been meeting with CPE about some of the initiatives we have there. We want to look at how those are strategically engaged with. Do they really move our mission and vision forward? Should we be doing that? What resources is it taking at the system office level, but also at the colleges? Because if the system picks up an initiative, well, guess who's doing a lot of that work? It's those presidents that are sitting right over there and all their faculty and staff. So we're going to take a hard look at that. I know that some of the regents have said to me, Regent Fletcher for one, listening to the town hall Huron meetings, that phrase has come up over and over again. It is not a new phrase. When I served on the cabinet here before, it's something we talked about then, but it's just something we got to be cognizant of. In defending our system, a lot of these things are imposed upon us, okay? We get a call from an outside agency, we wrote you into this grant and now you're doing this. Those are the kind of things that we're looking at, because a lot of it is not necessarily that it came from our system, it's that it was imposed upon us, but we need to manage that better ourselves. The other thing that we're looking at, I know that the board, I was not here, but I have read the recommendations that came back in December was looking at reorganization of the system office. We are already working on that, so even in anticipation of what Huron may or may not recommend, we're looking at reorganization there. Each one of the cabinet members is putting forth different plans. We're going to analyze those together, and so you will see some reorganization at the system office to ensure, again, that we're being as efficient and effective as we can possibly be. But we're not waiting. We're going to try to move forward as quickly as possible. The other thing is system office hiring. That has been a concern that's been brought up. We're looking at the staffing levels at the system office, as well as all of our college presidents do all the time. And so that's a difficult balance for us. You're going to have some very difficult conversations here in this board meeting about increases and all these types of things when we think about all of our faculty and staff. And we really, they are, I tell people at my college that my faculty are the heart of my institution. They're the closest people to the students, but my staff are the circulatory system. Maybe I think it's the influence of being in this mental hospital, I'm not sure. But in any event, yeah, because they get the students moving through the system at the colleges and they make sure that it happens for the students, but our faculty, that's the front of the line, as far as working with them. And we've got to take care of them. But we've also got to look, do we have appropriate hiring levels? Some of this will come out, I'm sure, with our comp and class study. But we're already looking at that at the system office. What should those appropriately be? Last thing I'll say about serving as an acting in some of those observations. A quote keeps popping into my mind. Some of you probably read some of his work, but former GE executive Jack Welch said that if the change inside an organization is not greater than the change outside, then the end is near. And that sounds ominous. And I think that what we're seeing, some of the things coming out of this, what could come out of this Senate joint resolution, things that we're going to learn from our Huron study, change is not bad. Change is good, and we need to embrace it. And I think that's the focus of our system office staff and as well as all of our colleges. We realize, and to quote Senator Stivers, things have changed since 1997. When we created this system, when we created CPE, when we created a lot of things, and pausing and taking a look at where we are and how efficient we are is something that we should be doing routinely. That's continuous improvement. The next thing I'm going to say is a little more difficult, but it's something that we were compelled to share with the board, And we have shared this with the executive committee, and I don't normally read from a statement. I'm not necessarily going to read this, but I want to make sure that I hit all the salient points so that you best understand where we're at. You know, when I accepted this role, I really had no idea I had been forming the board on a matter of such serious concern that I'm going to inform you of today. And even though I worked at the system office, I wouldn't have known the answers to some of these questions when I was here. And in fact, of course, if I'd had a crystal ball, I might have very well passed on the role to be the acting president at KCTCS. But I didn't, you know. I felt I was called, and so I needed to step up. What I need to tell you is a recent discovery that our administrative services staff made concerning fund balances, and when I say fund balances, specifically the systems office fund balance. Since I've been the acting president, Chair Stevens and other executive officers, Dr. Fletcher, as well as Council Duncan and Chief of Staff Rivera have emphasized the board's priority is for the president and all the staff to be that big T word, and that is transparent, forthright, and accurate when presenting information to the Regents. Approximately a year ago, I believe that our meeting was, I believe it was in Hazard, and that was in March. Regent Fletcher actually asked for some information regarding the fund balances for the college and for the system. She received some of that, but not specifically the information regarding the system office. Then 2 weeks ago, I was in a meeting with our chair, James Lee Stevens, and our vice chair, Barry Martin, and Chair Stevens actually asked the same question again. This time he asked that question. He had a different person who was receiving the question, and that was Buddy, who we all should just love and give a big round of applause for. But in any event, Buddy did a good job in looking at so that we could answer that question for the chair. I didn't know what the answer would be. The basic of any good leader is to provide information and to be transparent, particularly as a state institution and this board with fiduciary responsibilities. You have the right to any and all information, and you should always have that right. That's certainly how we treat it at the colleges when we get those types of questions. What we have found in trying to attempt to answer that question regarding fund balance is that the system office appears to have a fund balance that was reported to the board but not specifically noted as a fund balance. So if you were looking at financial statements from the audit, it's there, but I'm not being an accountant. Some of you may have those types of experiences. You would have had to dig pretty far to determine what that was. So it was there. But the fund balance comes from a variety of sources, such as interest on investments and internal charges to our colleges. So that's how the fund balance actually is attained. I know you're going to have a conversation later about board reserves. Please keep in mind they are two different things. One is our required board reserves. The system office has one. So do the colleges. This is different. This is carry forward. So think of it as your savings account. Okay? KCTCS believes the fund balance currently is in the amount of $75 million. But I caution everyone that there is still ongoing research that is pending to make sure that that is appropriate, and we are going to have to determine what is an appropriate amount for the fund balance, and we're looking into that now. A fund balance is appropriate. The system office should have one. The past few days I've been on phone conversations with people at other systems asking them what their fund balance was. Believe it or not, a lot of them were in this range that where we're at, but some of them have many more colleges than we do. So what we're going to determine scientifically and through analysis determine what should the fund balance be at the system office, but they should have one. It's necessary to have one in the event of some sort of emergent situation. There are lots of reasons why that they would need to have one. KCTCS intends to use these monies for the good of the entire system and the students who trust us with their education. So ultimately, the college paid into where this fund balance was, as well as some interest that was earned on those monies, and that's how it got there. As a governing body for the system, I feel it is now, of course, in the Regents' hands to determine the best path forward. What are we going to do now? We've determined that these monies are there. The questions have been answered. What is the appropriate way for us to move forward?
Chair Stevens, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
I move that KCTCS Board of Regents go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810, proposed or pending litigation, and KRS 61.810-1-F, individual personal matters that may lead to the appointment, discipline, or termination of an individual employee.
Your second?
I'll second it. Ms. Berry.
Roll call vote.
Chair Stevens,
Aye.
Vice Chair Martin,
Aye.
Secretary Fletcher. Aye. Regent Bogard.
Aye.
Regent Finan.
Aye.
Regent Girdler. Regent Green.
Aye.
Regent Hamilton.
Aye.
Regent Herding.
Aye.
Regent Jackson.
Aye.
Regent Rabinowitz.
Aye.
Regent Smith.
Aye.
Regent Witten.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
All right, at this time, we'll go into closed session. So everybody except the Regents will have to vacate the room. I better say it correctly.
Secretary Fletcher.
Present.
Regent Bogard.
Present.
Regent Finan.
Here.
Regent Girdler. Regent Green.
Present.
Regent Hamilton. Regent Herdink.
Aye.
Regent Jackson. Regent Jackson. Regent Martin. I've lost my place. Regent Rabinowitz. Regent Smith.
Present.
Regent Witten.
Present.
All members are accounted for. We have a quorum.
We have make a proposal for a motion, and Hannah, or Wendy, going to do that? Or Pam? Wendy.
Wendy.
I'm sorry, we recognize Secretary Fletcher.
Can I say something real quick? I'd like to introduce my son.
Oh.
He is actually a student here. So, when I say I'm very much vested in KCTC, he's one of the reasons. His sister was another one of the reasons, and myself.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
And Logan, we may want to hire you. He's heading into finance. We need some help there, I think.
Yeah, way to go. All right. Regent Fletcher, to make a motion?
So just to catch everybody else in the room up, no action was taken during our closed session, but coming into open session, I do have a motion to make, and that motion is that the Board of Regents of KCTCS contact the state auditor for an examination of the financial operations, internal policies, and controls of the Kentucky Community and Technical Colleges system.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Chair Stevens.
Aye.
Vice Chair Martin.
Aye.
Secretary Fletcher.
Aye.
Regent Bogard.
Aye.
Regent Finan.
Aye.
Regent Girdler. Regent Green.
Aye.
Regent Hamilton.
Aye.
Regent Herdink.
Aye.
Regent Jackson.
Aye.
Regent Rabinowitz.
Aye.
Regent Smith.
Aye.
Regent Witten.
Aye.
The motion is unanimous. It passes.
Thank you. We've been, by Hannah says that we were asking to try to complete our business for the day at 4:30. And then I was informed a while ago by the president of Bluegrass that the bus at the MVP suite will be there at 5 o'clock to take me to the airport. I did not know I was going to the airport, but evidently he's going to send me somewhere, so I hope to be able to have dinner with you all tonight. So, but the next item on the agenda is, I have to look at my book here. Buddy, I think you're up again. And you all be sure to come at the next one, see the name plate and name sign that Buddy Combs has.
So just to update you, the KCTCS internal audit was completed, and it was presented to the audit committee on March the 13th. In your packet, you should have a copy of the audit. There were a few findings in there in return to Title IV funds, human resources I-9s, a pro-card follow-up review. They also did an audit of the business office at Southeast Community or Kentucky Community and Technical College, Jefferson Community and Technical College, and Elizabethtown Community College. 3 of those findings were of a medium risk. Those were addressed, and all the solutions have been resolved with the exception, nope, I'll take that back. The last one was resolved on 3.8. So those exceptions have been already audited and resolved. We have some moderate risk in our basically return to Title IV. We have plans to have those executed and finished by May of this year. The I-9s was just an informational item. We had a few I-9s at the local colleges that were not submitted in a timely fashion. That has been resolved. and we are working on doing a system-wide policy and procedure in regards to how we handle I-9s going forward. We had a ProCard review. In that ProCard review, the external auditors recommended a firm to help us with that. What this firm does is that all of our ProCard transactions go into a database, and based on certain criteria, it would spit out basically some audit exceptions. We are in the final testing phase of that at the system office, and we're testing it with a few colleges and hope to have it rolled out by the end of this fiscal year to all colleges. We had while interviewing our business officers, they requested that, they don't have the ability to run financial reports themselves. They have to depend on the system office to do that. This was also a request from this board here, and in your documents, we have produced a training document that will be sent out to the colleges after this meeting. We want to give this to you all first, and it's a training manual where the colleges in the future, actually starting this afternoon, they will be able to run their own financial reports locally at the colleges without having to depend on the colleges. So this was a request from the colleges, a request from the board here. We've acted and provided a solution to move forward.
I want to thank Buddy how versatile he is, because this report was supposed to be presented, my mistake, but Joe heard it. So Buddy can do anything. Joe, I'm sorry that you worked all that time and you and Buddy to report, but I apologize for not.
Document I was going to read, but he did it better.
Yeah, that is. So that's for your information. Buddy, you have the next item, which is an action item.
So the next item, if I'm on schedule and got my notebook, it's capital projects. So as always, in accordance with KRS, any asset over $1 million, capital projects over $1 million, have to be approved by the board. I don't know if I have control of the slides or not, but we'll see. So I don't know how we're going to do this. Do I just need to present them all and then?
Present them all, we will vote on all three. So as the regents go through, they will vote yes, 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 or no, 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 whatever.
Okay. So the first item is at Henderson Mechanical and Equipment Controls. This current project was currently estimated at basically under $1 million, and during the design phase, the consultant determined the cost would be $1.6 million. So the funding sources for this are $1.3 million for bond funds, and then KCTCS will kick in $195,000 of their own money. Basically, this is a need thing. We need to replace the boilers and the chillers, not children, and upgrade the building controls throughout the system. So basically, this gives us, cost savings, and it also helps with our faculty and staff be in a comfortable space when they come to Henderson. The second item is Jefferson construction of a parking garage. The current project of the scope was estimated at $12.5 million. However, after the bid project, it was determined that additional $7.5 million was needed. So the new scope is $20 million for this project, and the additional funding is provided by KCTCS agency funds. And Jefferson Downtown Campus has a significant need for parking, and we have Dr. Handy here if he needs to express any other things in regards to this capital project.
So I'll just answer questions or anything you need to come up about.
Okay.
Glad to talk about it. We've been saving for 8 years to be able to do this project. Sorry. We've been saving for 8 years to be able to accomplish this project, and when it's complete, I think Kofi mentioned that this was the most beautiful campus in the system. I'm very willing to acknowledge that our downtown campus is the ugliest campus in the system. With its downtown parking area right in the center of the campus, this will alleviate that, and we're building with state funding a new science building that's also going to be on that lot and create a campus quad because we have a 100,000 square foot building, the Hartford Tower, 12 stories tall, that we're going to be bringing down. and replacing with two buildings much more efficiently about 75 to 80,000 square feet instead of 105,000 square feet. And our science labs are in that building, so we have to stage this correctly in order to be able to continue to teach science. And this is a key piece of it. It'll be constructed simultaneously with that science building, and we will have a beautiful, better looking than Bluegrass campus about 7 years from now because of the investments we've been able to make. So, questions I'll take.
With the project bid needing another 7.5 million, what do you attribute that to? Is
Sure.
it supply chain? Is it cost in concrete? I mean,
It's really two factors. That 12.5 was a pre-COVID number.
Okay.
And so when you go through inflation, that probably represents 2/3 of it. And the second piece is our preferred location for it was a different location, and we couldn't get we had to get some city agreements and some other tenant agreements, and we couldn't get that through. So we are placing it on our existing parking lot area as part of that area. And so we needed an extra deck, an extra level, because we're actually using the same area that's currently being parked on. Whereas the other area, we would have been able to salvage more street parking.
Any other questions?
Right.
Hear a motion?
Wait, we got one more, sorry.
One more, all right, sorry.
So the last item that we're want to present to you is the Blue Crown Newtown Administration expansion. This expansion is $5 million. This is an ongoing project to renovate the administration building. I think Lisa probably explained this more eloquently this morning to you, or earlier this afternoon, about this project. And basically the scope of the project is to update system finishes, include new elevator, stairs, mechanical spaces, conference areas, and new restroom facilities to replace the oldest flushing toilet in the state of Kentucky. And Dr. Acappo is here to provide any additional questions or comments in regards to this project.
My hope was to take all of you through that building, but I was overruled by my staff. That's why you did not go through it.
I've been in that building, and it does need renovating, that's for sure.
Yes, it does.
Any question of me? Thank you.
Roll call. Hear a motion?
So moved to approve all three?
I'll second it.
Second.
Have a motion, second. Madam Parliamentarian, call.
You are approving all three as you vote. So Chair Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair Martin?
Aye.
Secretary Fletcher?
Aye.
Brittany Bogard?
aye.
Regent Finan?
Aye.
Regent Girdler? Regent Green?
Aye.
Regent Hamilton? Regent Herding?
Aye.
Regent Jackson?
Aye.
Regent Rabinowitz?
Aye.
Regent Smith?
Aye.
Regent Witten?
Aye.
The vote is unanimous. The motion carries for all three.
Thank you. Next item is KCTS Regents Request Reserve. Dr. Ferguson.
I'll have to defer again to Buddy Combs to discuss this proposal.
Right, so this is a request from, I do believe, the June of '22 board meeting. We brought back information to the board, and then it was put on hold again in December. However, this time we want to bring it back as an action item. Bottom line is that in our policies and procedures, we do have a section that each of our colleges in the system office are required to have a budget reserve annually set by the Board of Regents. The challenge that we had is that the Board of Regents never approved this in the past, and that's the only sentence in the policies and procedures. So what we're doing is we're requesting to move forward with a range that we will update you guys with of 3 to 5%, and we're requesting that every year going forward after this year, with the recommendations of the finance team at the system office and the colleges work together, that we would present to you early in December, at the December board meeting, a recommendation, and then each March going forward, the board would make an action item to say what that board reserve should be for the next upcoming fiscal year. If you basically approve this action, then we will put that into policy and procedure and move forward with it. But at the moment, with all the input from all of our chief business officers and all the research that we did, we are recommending a range of 3 to 5%. And at this time, we want your approval, and then at the same time, we want your approval for an actual percent so we can move forward with the FY23 budget. And we are asking for a 3% again this year.
Can I ask for a point of clarification? So if we make a motion for 3%, does it remain policy until we revisit it and change it, or do we have to do this every year?
Every year, we would bring a recommendation to this board asking for a 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. So every March, we would ask you to, based on the finances of our colleges moving forward, what is a healthy board reserve, and what is that percent? The business officers believe that that percent is a range of 3 to 5, and this board would determine every year based on our recommendation, what we think that board reserve should be. Does that make sense?
It's not statutory, but it's fiscally sound because of the changing economic times. Who could have foreseen COVID? Perhaps you would have needed something based on whatever happened then. So I think the policy or the procedure to do it annually is appropriate.
Then I would make a motion that we entertain the 3% as recommended by the financial officers.
Is there a second? Roll call vote, please.
Chair Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair Martin?
Yes.
Secretary Fletcher?
Aye.
Regent Bogard?
Aye.
Regent Finan?
Aye.
Regent Girdler? Regent Green?
Aye.
Regent Hamilton? Regent Herding?
Aye.
Regent Jackson?
Aye.
Regent Rabinowitz?
Aye.
Regent Smith?
Aye.
Regent Witten?
Aye.
The vote is unanimous, the motion carries.
Next item, buddy.
Do you have to announce the next item, or do I just
Yeah,
say?
go ahead. Ratification, OPEB Trust Administrative Committee decision.
Okay, so the next item is the OPEB Trust, the Administration Committee. Just a brief view of this is this committee is made up of several individuals from each of our colleges and from the system office. In addition to, we have what we call advisors on this team. The team is made up of individuals that are eligible for the OPEB Trust, and then there's members of this team that are not eligible. So it's a mix of individuals that are on this team that are presenting this recommendation and action item to the board. So basically what we're recommending from this team is the dependent premiums and coverage for retirees under the age of 65. In the OPEB Trust, OPEB Trust, once you retire and you're under the age of 65, states that we will provide you a single health insurance coverage premium. For those individuals that have dependents and they opt to put their dependents on this plan, we want to move forward that we would only cover the single. So if they pick a dependent coverage, we will cover the single premium, and then anything in excess of that rate would be the employee's responsibility. The second part of that plan is that this is a change from what we've done in the past. So right now, we would have to, we have a communication plan getting ready for open enrollment in FY24. We currently, as of this morning, we had 40 employees that are currently in the OPEB Trust plan with dependent care or dependent coverage. We actually have a total of 1,045 employees that are actually using the OPEB Trust, and we have an estimated 2,127 employees that are eligible to go into this future. I wanted to give you that background. So currently, we have 40 employees that are receiving the OPEB Benefit Trust for health insurance, and they selected some kind of dependent coverage. So we want to communicate that based on this information and to keep the OPEB Trust whole, that we would only cover the single premium, and then the employee would be responsible for the difference between a dependent coverage and the single coverage. And our communication plan is to get that out to those 40 individuals by August to get them time to plan for the open enrollment that usually happens in October. The other item that for your approval is that any future additions to the plan coverage, we will follow state guidelines and issue RFPs to get that information. So our intent is to solicit bid from other insurance companies to evaluate the options to insure the trust appropriately and provides insurance benefits while preserving the trust corpus. Questions?
Are anyone on the committee on the dependent plan?
No, sir.
So there's no representation of those 40 people?
No, the people on the committee are currently employed employees, and
Okay. So
they're not drawing the benefit.
Gotcha, sorry.
And I would interject there that the trust is very specific about who is eligible, and it's only employees. It is not employees and family members.
Then how'd the mistake get made?
So that's
Wait.
that's kind of my question.
Right.
So, and this is for you, Honorable Pam Duncan.
Um,
What liability is there? Because these 39 people were told, you plus dependent.
Right. So the liability, actually, in my estimation, lies with the employees. So for instance, let's say this. The institution is responsible for a balancing, and that is the benefit to the employee and the preservation of the trust. Without preserving the trust appropriately, you can't supply the benefit to the employee. So to provide compensation or benefits to individuals who are not really eligible by the trust document itself to participate, you are perhaps jeopardizing those employees who would later be eligible for it. So there's really no legal recourse other than to take this action.
I guess that still doesn't answer the question of how were these people told they could have this and now they can't?
Right, so I don't know that. And Buddy, I don't think knows that. This was something that was discovered during the investigation, and it was actually discovered the day of that it was being presented to you all. So Buddy was, as Buddy does, running back and forth, verifying numbers that I was asking him about. And it appears that the staff were told to do it.
So this action is to correct that mistake.
Any estimate on the difference between covering those 40 with employees and not covering those dependents? I mean, with dependents, not employees. Those employees with dependents?
No, ma'am, I've not done that analysis.
Thank you.
Question? Call for the question and the motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendation.
Here, second.
So moved.
Roll call vote.
Chair Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair Martin?
Aye.
Secretary Fletcher?
Aye.
Regent Bogard?
Aye.
Regent Finan?
Aye.
Regent Girdler? Regent Green?
Aye.
Regent Hamilton? Regent Herding?
No.
Regent Jackson?
Aye.
Regent Rabinowitz? Regent Smith?
Aye.
Regent Witten?
Aye.
There was one nay vote. The motion carries.
We have, I was told we need to be out of here at 4:30, and I'm 10 minutes late, so in that regard, do I Madam Parliamentarian, what do we need to do? We want to adjourn till tomorrow.
If you want to adjourn, you need to make a motion
Okay.
to adjourn and move all action items to the next day.
All right. Do I hear a motion, we adjourn and move all action items to the next, till tomorrow?
So moved.
All right, Chair Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair Martin?
Aye.
Secretary Fletcher?
Aye.
Regent Bogard?
Aye.
Regent Finan?
Aye.
Regent Girdler? Regent Green?
Aye.
Regent Hamilton? Regent Herdink?
Aye.
Regent Jackson?
Aye.
Regent Rabinowitz? Regent Smith?
Aye.
Regent Witten?
Aye.
The motion is to adjourn, and I think we have a community breakfast in the morning, right, Doc? Yes, you want to
That's correct.
tell me about is the shuttle ready for me at the airport? Okay.
Going to